You don't belong here. She didn't look up from the floor she was mopping. Just kept moving the cloth in slow, deliberate circles across the marble. He stood there, briefcase in hand, waiting for her to apologize. She never did. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. He'd come in early, earlier than anyone else, because that's what men like him did. The building was supposed to be empty, silent, his. But there she was, a woman in a gray uniform, on her knees, scrubbing something he couldn't see. And when he told her to move, she looked at him like he was the one out of place. That was the moment everything began to unravel. This is a tale of the Fireplace story, for anyone who's ever been invisible to the world, but seen by the right person. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, have you ever been judged by someone who didn't know your story? Her name was Elena. She worked the overnight shift at Ashford Tower, Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. She mopped floors, emptied trash bins, wiped down glass doors that important people touched without thinking. She'd been doing it for 3 years. No one knew her name. No one asked. She liked it that way. Elena had learned a long time ago that being invisible was safer than being seen. Safer than explaining. Safer than hoping someone might understand that she wasn't always this. Once, she'd been someone else. But that was before the accident, before the medical bills, before her husband walked out and her daughter stopped calling. Now, she was just the woman who cleaned up after everyone else. He was Marcus. Marcus Hale. Though most people called him Mr. Hale, or Sir, or, if they were trying to impress him, a visionary. He owned the building. Well, technically his company did. Hale Global owned a lot of things. Hotels, office towers, investment portfolios that shifted millions before most people had their morning coffee. Marcus had built it all himself. No family money, no inheritance, just ruthless focus and a refusal to accept failure. He was 52 years old, though he looked older when he was alone. The lines around his eyes deepened when no one was watching. His shoulders sagged just slightly when he thought no one could see. He lived in a penthouse on the 63rd floor. He worked 16-hour days. He had everything, and he couldn't remember the last time he'd felt anything. It was 5:47 a.m. when Marcus came down to the lobby. He'd been up all night going over acquisition reports, and he needed air, needed to walk, needed to feel like his body still existed outside of spreadsheets and conference calls. The lobby was dark except for the pale glow of the security lights. And there she was, Elena, though he didn't know her name yet. She was kneeling near the fountain, scrubbing at something on the floor. Her back was to him. She didn't hear him approach. "Excuse me," he said. She didn't stop. "Excuse me," he said again louder. This time she paused. Slowly, she turned her head. Her eyes were dark, tired, but not afraid. "I need to get through," Marcus said, gesturing toward the door behind her. Elena looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked down at the wet floor, the bucket, the cloth in her hand. "It's still wet," she said quietly. "I can see that. You'll track it everywhere." Marcus blinked. "I'll be careful." "You won't," she said. Not rudely, just factually. He felt something flicker in his chest. Irritation, maybe, or disbelief. "Do you know who I am?" he asked. Elena tilted her head slightly. "Should I?" And for the first time in years, Marcus Hale didn't know what to say. He started seeing her every morning after that. At first, he told himself it was coincidence. He just happened to be up early, just happened to walk through the lobby at the same time. But by the third morning, he knew he was lying to himself. He wanted to see her. Elena never smiled at him, never asked how he was, never treated him like he mattered more than anyone else. And somehow, that made him feel more human than he had in decades. One morning, he brought her coffee. She looked at it like it might explode. "I don't drink coffee," she said. "Everyone drinks coffee." "I don't." "Why not?" She paused, cloth still in her hand. "It makes me feel like my heart's trying to escape." Marcus almost laughed. Almost. Instead, he set the cup down on the edge of the fountain. "In case you change your mind." When he came back an hour later, the cup was gone. It was the security guard who told him. Marcus had asked casually, too casually, about the woman who worked the overnight shift. "Oh, Elena," the guard said. "Yeah, she's been here a few years. Keeps to herself. Good worker." "Elena," Marcus repeated. Yeah, sad story, actually. Used to be a nurse, I think. But her husband got sick, then he left her, and she ended up here. She's got a daughter somewhere, but they don't talk. Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. How do you know all this? He asked. The guard shrugged. She doesn't talk much, but sometimes late at night, people say things. You know how it is. Marcus didn't know, but he wanted to. It started with small things. Marcus began leaving books on the bench near the fountain. Nothing obvious, just things he thought she might like. A worn copy of poetry, a mystery novel, a cookbook. He never saw her take them, but they were always gone by morning. One night, he stayed late in his office, later than usual, late enough that when he came down to the lobby, Elena was still there. She was sitting on the floor near the fountain, her back against the marble, reading. It was the poetry book. Marcus stopped in the doorway. He didn't want to startle her, but she looked up anyway, as if she'd known he was there all along. You left this, she said. I thought you might like it. Why? I don't know. She studied him for a moment, then looked back down at the page. This one's sad. Which one? She read aloud, her voice soft but steady. We loved with a love that was more than love. Marcus felt something crack open inside him. Do you believe that? He asked quietly. Elena closed the book. I used to. They started talking after that. Not every night, but some nights. Marcus would find excuses to come down to the lobby. Elena would find reasons to take her break near the fountain. They talked about small things. The weather, the city, the way the building echoed when it was empty. And then, slowly, they talked about bigger things. Elena told him about her daughter, how she tried so hard to keep everything together after her husband left, how she'd worked 3 jobs and still couldn't make the rent, how her daughter had looked at her one day and said, I can't do this anymore, Mom. I can't watch you disappear, and how Elena had let her go because sometimes love meant not holding on. Marcus told her about his ex-wife, how she'd left him 10 years ago because she said he loved his work more than her, how she'd been right, how he built an empire and lost everyone who mattered. Do you regret it? Elena asked. Marcus was quiet for a long time. I don't know how to be anything else, he finally said. Elena looked at him with those dark, tired eyes. Maybe you just never had a reason to try. It happened on a Tuesday. Marcus came down to the lobby, and Elena wasn't there. Her bucket was in the corner. Her cart was still half full, but she was gone. He asked the security guard. She called in sick, the guard said. First time in 3 years. Marcus felt panic rise in his throat. He didn't have her number, didn't know where she lived, didn't know anything except that she wasn't here, and something felt wrong. He found her address in the employee files. He knew it was crossing a line, knew it was invasive, knew it made him exactly the kind of man he hated. But he went anyway. Elena's apartment was in a building that looked like it had given up decades ago. The hallway smelled like mildew and old cooking oil. The lights flickered. Marcus knocked on the door. No answer. He knocked again. Elena, it's Marcus. Are you okay? Silence. Then, finally, a voice. Quiet. Strained. Go away. I'm not going anywhere. You don't belong here. Marcus closed his eyes. I know. A long pause. Then the door opened. Elena stood there, pale and shaking, one hand pressed against her side. I fell, she said quietly. It's nothing. You need a doctor. I can't afford a doctor. Marcus felt rage and heartbreak collide in his chest. You're coming with me, he said. No, Elena. You don't get to do this, she said, her voice breaking. You don't get to swoop in and fix me like I'm one of your projects. I'm not broken. I'm just... She stopped, looked away. I'm just tired. Marcus stepped closer. Then let me help you rest. She let him take her to the hospital. She didn't speak the entire drive. When they told her she had 3 cracked ribs and severe bruising, she just nodded. When they asked how it happened, she said she fell. Marcus didn't believe her, but he didn't push. He sat with her in the waiting room while they wrapped her ribs. He paid the bill before she could see it. He drove her home and walked her to her door. You didn't have to do this, she said. I know. So why did you? Marcus looked at her, really looked at her, and realized he didn't have a good answer. Or maybe he did, and he was just too afraid to say it. Because you're the only person in my life who's ever told me the truth, he said quietly. Elena's eyes filled with tears. The truth is, I don't know how to let people help me. Then let me teach you. If this story reminds you of someone you lost, or almost lost, share it with them. It didn't happen overnight. Elena didn't quit her job. Marcus didn't suddenly become a different person. But things shifted. Marcus started coming down to the lobby earlier. Not to walk past her, to sit with her. Elena started letting him. They didn't talk about the future. They didn't make promises. They just existed together in the quiet hours before the world woke up. And slowly, Marcus almost didn't notice. He started to feel again. One morning, Elena looked up from her work and said, "I called my daughter." Marcus froze. What did she say? She cried. And then she said she missed me. Elena's voice broke. "I'm going to see her next week." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "That's good," he said. "That's really good." Elena nodded. Then she looked at him with those dark, steady eyes. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For seeing me. Thank you for spending this time with Golden Heart Stories." If this story moved you, like and subscribe. Your support helps us keep telling stories that matter. What part of this story stayed with you the most? Leave it in the comments below.